Hey guys, SketchE here, back with another story of my horrible, or sometimes interesting at best, um, role-playing experiences. And today I'm going to be talking about just going on to my next story, which is to sort of set it up. After my first group broke up, um, we I didn't really there was basically a big limbo where we were trying to get the game back together, but none of us really wanted to. And then at that time, or around right before the group broke up, I had a job, so I couldn't play whenever I wanted to. And then my other friend had started working at Best Buy, and he got a group together through a bunch of guys that worked there. And he invited me, but I couldn't because of my work schedule. This eventually changed when I quit that job, and I had plenty of free time. So I joined this. They invited me to come and play, and I thought it would be cool to get back into into gaming. I thought it was fun, and this would be something new. It'd be a chance for me to play and actually learn the game, or a game, because we weren't playing D&D. What we were actually playing was Rogue Trader. For those that don't know, Rogue Trader is a game set in the Warhammer 40k universe where you are basically, for lack of better terms, and there's probably someone who could definitely tell me I'm completely wrong, you're basically institutionalized pirates or state-sponsored or something. Basically, you have a Rogue Trader permit that allows you to go out into the fringes of space and do things that traditional people aren't allowed to do. So, even to this day, I still don't know much about Warhammer 40k. And when I was brought into this group, I was basically dropped in, said, "Hey, we need this role. Can you fill it?" And that's the kind of person I kind of want to be. If I need to fill roles, I can fill roles. And so my character was the navigator. And to basically show how little I understood about the Warhammer universe, basically I had a quick brief read through of the Rogue Trader book. Some people gave me some explanations, and the kind of character I wanted to make, or I ended up making, was to kind of run down how it creates, how your character creation works. And I like this one very much. You start off at, the way it's meant to be is you start off at your home world, and you follow this little chart down, or this little, what's the fucking term? Whatever. You follow this thing down, and you pick points in your life, like was there a major event? Well, there was a major event, and what was it? Was it bad? Was it good? What was your lifestyle like? Stuff like that, until you eventually come to your class. Now, the way we did it is we worked up so that we knew what our class was. And the way I ended up being is I was an honor-bound navigator, and my honor was to humanity. Now, me not knowing much about the or the Warhammer universe, the way I kind of envisioned it is my character had a almost begrudging respect for the Emperor. This is a huge, huge no-no. First off, in my mind, I thought the Emperor was an actual guy, not the zombie space skeleton that he is, or cyberspace zombie. And as a navigator, that is entirely heretical, because the way a navigator works is they must find the Astronomicon, which is basically the northern light in the Sea of the Warp. The Astronomicon is the Emperor, and if I'm butchering that name or the concept, then I'm sorry, this is how I know it now. So basically, there's this big ball of psychic space light in the warp, and that's how navigators navigate the ship. So from there, I was completely off base, and I can't remember any of the characters' names, so I am going to be using the players' real names, but honestly, you don't know their last name, so you're probably not going to know who they are, and you probably don't know me. So first and foremost, we're going to go with Matt. Matt was my friend who played Emperor M in my first game, and his character, who I ended up basically going to war with, was a Astropath Transcendent, basically the space radio. And the best way to describe his character was arrogant. And very full of himself, to the point where he sat on a throne that was carried by what we called Armstrongs. Basically a bunch of muscular men who carried him around. And this is this frail little psyker. The next character was our tech priest. And this guy, his character didn't completely manifest until later, but he was just a traditional tech priest. Praise the Omnissiah, blah, blah, blah. Stuff like that. And he actually got really good on his tech chants, or tech prayers, or whatever. The next guy was a... what's the fucking... The lawyer. I can't think of the class off the top of my head. I could go run the book, but that's in the other room. He basically was the lawyer. And to be completely honest, I do not remember much about this character. I don't remember much about most of the other characters. The other character being the... yeah. I think one was the gunner of the ship. One was the... yeah, that basically covers the group now I think about it. So we had the gunner, the space radio, the tech priest, and the navigator. That ended up being the core group. We did have a pilot, then we had a... I think one of the classes was like basically the warrior. I really need to actually look at that book again. But basically there's all these... so we basically had... okay. So we had these four characters. And my first introduction of it was we end up on this ice planet, and we are led into this ice tomb. The way my character was thrown on, because I was the new guy to the group, is they basically explained that the old navigator, who I can't remember who it was, I think it was Walter. He was the ship's gunner, and he decided he didn't want to play the navigator anymore for one reason or another. He just didn't want to do it. Nothing wrong with that. So he switched to the gunner of the ship. And I'm going to try and remember what that class was, but it's not coming to me. So the way they explained it is they jettisoned him out the airlock because he was such a bad navigator. And they threw another guy in charge. And this guy ended up screwing up so badly. Not badly enough to get them all killed, however, but what they were going to do is go to a planet and bring corpse starch, which, as I understand, is effectively Soylent Green. Corpse starch is people. So they were bringing this planet corpse starch, and they ended up 4 years after they were supposed to. Warp is the warp is an interesting thing, and when you go in, you don't know when you're coming out, so to speak. So he ended up jumping them 3 years ahead, and they jettisoned him out the airlock. My character was the leading apprentice and was given command. And the first thing I did, and this immediately created some character friction, is we land on this planet, and the DM wants us to go somewhere. So he's like, why don't you make a psi essence check, which is basically a sense for psychics or other living things. And I succeed my roll. And I say, hey, we need to go in there. And there's basically these bunkers on this ice planet. And so I'm like, hey, we need to go in there. There's something in there. And the guy who's the gunner, who is fairly new to the crew, he looks at me, well, what makes you the authority? And I'm like, I don't give, and this was the kind of character I was playing, is I don't care who you are or what you think. We need to go in there. Because I didn't know who this guy was. And in the story, this guy was actually new to the ship, whereas I had been on there for a while. And I'm a navigator. And everyone else was just like, yeah, he's right. You're the new guy on the ship. He's actually been here a while. We trust him more than you. So we go in there. Turns out there is this hole in the wall. When we go in there, we travel down, and the first thing we come into are these little crystal spiderlings. Fairly simple. Now, me being my only second game, and I'm not really used to any form of cast or anything, which is a stretch to call the navigator a caster, honestly, because they have like 3 abilities, and they're not really combat. So we have this fight, and one of the players dies because he's leaving. He's dropping out of the group. He's moving out of state, something like that. So they kill off his character, and honestly, what seemed like a pretty boring fashion, if that's my personal take on it. Basically, this little spiderling comes up, stabs him in the heart. He dies. He leaves. It's like, okay, you killed off your character, and that's the way Warhammer is. People die. A lot of people die. And so we continue on from there, and we go down deeper, and we find this little museum sort of thing, where they basically have these reenactments of battles set up. And they're very old battles. And this is an ice planet very, very far from Terra or Earth. And like they're nowhere near it, but there's humans in battle. And they're historic battles, historic real-world battles. For instance, the war of, there was, I believe, a Civil War reenactment. Just bodies posed in these positions. And there was a Spartan reenactment, I believe. And I went up to this and I'm like, oh, this is really cool. So I take a Spartan shield. I think that would be interesting to have on my character. So we go from there. Nothing happens at that, but we come across this ship. And it's very smooth, very clean, it was described as egg, basically being an egg. And I can't remember exactly what the name, I want to say NASA was on it, or something, but basically, this spaceship is old as shit, and it's one that we would have, not we specifically, but our generation or future generations within a couple thousand years would have flown to this planet. I think he said it was Men of Iron Age, which I still to this day don't know what that is. So he said it was Men of Iron Age, I think. And we go into this ship, and I am immediately, my character is immediately apprehensive. He's like, for one reason or another, I do not want to go on here. And I think he gave me a reason. I just can't remember what it is. However, he also really did want me on this ship. So I was like, no, I'm going to sit out here. I'm not going onto that ship until X happens. But he tells... So he's like, okay, make a will save. And I immediately fail it. And he says, you smell this amazing smell, and it is so powerful, you just have to go in. And I say, okay, I go in. And we go into the place. And everyone else is exploring the ship. They're doing their own thing. They're fine. And so I go in and I find this kitchen area. And there's these big plates of eggs. And so I'm like, you know what, I'm really not hungry. This is the out of character me still trying to stop it. And he's like, okay, make another will save. I fail that, which is pretty bad for one of the psychers to fail their will saves. Because that's where my character was based in, his will. So I just sit down and I start eating into these eggs. Now, if there's a will save to go along with it, there's something wrong going on. My friend also failed it, his first one, but he doesn't resist. He just goes and sits down and starts eating the eggs. Now, after a few minutes of in-game time, I believe, the others have explored the ship a decent amount. They've started to find new things. One of them actually found the control room, or the power room, I believe. And in their head, they were like, you know what? We could probably get this thing running again. Which would be huge because archaeotech is a big thing in Warhammer. Old stuff works better. Old stuff is just better in general. So if we could get a ship that is labeled NASA, likely from Terra, and we would be able to sell that for a lot. Or the Inquisition would seize it, or someone would seize it and stiff us on the payment. But we could try and sell this for a lot. Apparently the group had already had a secret aggro colony going on. Which I don't know how anything stays hidden from the Emperor, but that's the way it goes. They had this secret planet. So they were planning on getting this ship and selling it. At that time, my DM's like, okay, make another will save. And I fail mine for the third time. So I'm just going to sit here, keep chowing down on my eggs. My friend who came in and started eating with me made his. And he finally realized what is going on. And basically what we have been eating is these big plates of chaos crystals. Just chowing down on chaos crystals. This is the descent into madness for my character. Because my character had in his mind that he is going to do everything he can to preserve humanity. His goals are he's going to be the good, noble kind of person who is pushing humanity forward. That's the kind of guy I had in mind. I was very quickly beginning to be corrupted. So from there, we basically find out everything isn't as it seems. I eventually do make my will save. But from that point on, I can't say anything but eggs. I believe they went on to end up destroying the ship. Basically, I think it had an AI in it. And our tech priest knew that was very bad. That was very, very bad. And we had to destroy the ship at all costs. So we eventually get off the ship, head back up. go on to our troop transport, and we head back to the ship right as the egg ship blows up. However, there was still something there. My GM made me make a senescence check, me and the astropath. And one of us, I think it was, no, I definitely passed it. I passed it. The only problem was I couldn't say anything but eggs. That was my entire vocabulary, was eggs. So I knew there was still this big, massive energy on this planet, and it was a bad, massive energy. And so literally, I'm sitting here, and we've got this big interplanetary map thing, and my character is just sitting there pounding on this thing, yelling, eggs, just eggs, 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 eggs. And eventually my DM says, okay, go ahead and make your will save. Try and break free of this. And I finally make the damn thing. I'm just like, it's right fucking here. There's still something on this planet. We have to kill it. And one of them's like, oh, yeah, there probably is. He's a psyker. He probably knows this thing. And so they just start bombarding the planet and kill whatever's on it to the best of our knowledge. And from there, I don't know if there was anything in between. And I want to say there was, but I don't remember it. The next big thing we did is we were flying through space, and we didn't have to jump through the warp yet. But we were flying through space, and we came in contact with a Space Hulk, which the way they described it is it was a tech priest vessel, this massive, massive tech priest vessel. And in the side of it was a chaos crystal ship, or something along those lines. It's basically a ship covered in chaos crystals. And it was just rammed into the side. And this ended up being the biggest part of this campaign. And what our plan was, is we were going to go onto the ship and we were gonna take the ship, try and break off the chaos crystals, and sell the Space Hulk, because it would be worth a massive amount of money. In Rogue Trader, you have what is called wealth factor. I think it's wealth factor. And basically, instead of having money per se, it's things. If you have a high enough wealth factor, you can just have some things. The way it generally works is you make a roll against your ship's wealth factor, or profit factor. Profit factor is the term. So you make a roll against your ship's profit factor, and if you succeed, you get whatever you want. And the rarity and stuff like that make things harder to get. So on. It's at. Sorry. So we go onto the ship, and we start boarding it. And immediately we are being attacked by the ship, because it's basically gone into auto attack, auto function, and it's defending itself, because we're now invaders. Not only is the ship attacking us, though, we begin being attacked by chaos creatures. To this day, I still don't know exactly what they were. They were described as these crystalline creatures with staffs that they were shooting out of. I might be completely misremembering that, but that's how I remember it. So they eventually cut through the hull of the ship, create a beachhead, jump up, and we all get in, and we start our horrible, horrible descent into this thing. And I believe that at this point, no, this hasn't happened yet. But the Tech Priest, when we get onto the ship, Tech Priest has a bunch of these. I can't remember what they're fucking called, and I'm apologizing. I'm going to apologize for that. Right now, my memory is very spotty, and it's very early in the morning. I probably shouldn't be doing this, but I'm doing it anyways. God damn it. So he has these automatons. They're basically people with enough metal attached to them to make them work still. Oh, it's going to bother me. It's going to bother me that I can't figure out, that I can't remember any of this stuff. But so we bring those things on, and because they're basically humans with a few 100 pounds of hundreds, if not thousands, of additional metal attached to them, they get into the ship, and we get into a place where gravity starts kicking in. And we happen to drill a hole in what was the ceiling. So when you go from anti-gravity to gravity, bad things might happen if there isn't a rope or something of that sort. So these few 1,000 pounds of metal drop in, and immediately, luckily for them, they hit a catwalk. Unfortunately for them and the catwalk, this is 3 or 4 couple 1,000-pound beings. That catwalk is almost immediately taken out, and 2 or 3 of these things, and I think half of his guys are taken out, just straight off the bat. And we're like, oh, this is a good start. So we go in from there, and we start working our way through the ship, and things are bad. Things are going bad. We don't know what we're fighting. We're fighting these chaos creatures. And in Rogue Trader, you are allowed a certain amount of military force. And our military force was not good. Basically, everyone was going to be rolling at, I think it was a 45 for almost all of their skills, if they're lucky. 45 is less than 50-50 to hit. I think our best men were only rolling at a 60 still. Basically, explain how that works is in Rogue Trader you roll percentiles. If you have a 60 in your score, that means you have a 60% chance of doing it, which means that you have to roll below 60. 1 is a critical success, and 100 is a critical failure. And yes, Rogue Trader does work in critical successes and failures. So those of you who are, and I'm going to be corrected on this, but those of you who fucking go into D&D games or lobbies and say there's no, the book says you can't critically succeed or fail, screw you guys, because that's just boring. Now, if it's something that you can't obviously do or you can't fail, like if you're going to pick a simple lock and you have 8 million points in lockpick, if you have a 50-50, if your bonus alone wins it, your bonus alone wins it. That's the way I see it. There's no point in rolling. But I digress. So we go in there, and we're not doing very well. We're losing men left and right, but we finally created a beachhead. We worked into a medical room, which was very lucky, because our players were getting messed up, our men were getting messed up, people were getting messed up. And all the while, stupid phone, all the while, people are, or my character, is starting to have these mental images. I'm being told, you can have it all. And I'm getting, I don't know who it is or what's telling me, but I'm having this illusions of a woman in a red dress. And I don't know who this is. Apparently she is a reference to some show or something. But I'm basically being told there's this woman in a red dress appearing all the time. I'm like, okay, and she's telling me I can have it all. And I'm having these weird dreams where I have to do something and I fail inevitably. But I have to do something, and I'm slowly going crazy. And this is the thing about Rogue Trader. Don't know if it's Warhammer in general, but in Rogue Trader, the fact of the matter is you will fall to corruption or insanity eventually. Don't know what, doesn't matter which one. One of the, if you aren't killed, you're going to go corrupt or you're going to go insane. So we're going through, and my character is slowly going insane. The astropath, who is played by Emperor M, begins getting illusions of grandeur. At the start of the campaign, he idolized the Emperor. The Emperor is the be-all, end-all. He has been to Terra and has seen the Emperor's holy light, and he is blind because of the Emperor's holy light. And that's how astropaths work, I guess. That's the explanation I was given. But so he was in such awe of the Emperor that he is slowly going he's also going insane, but his insanity is, the Emperor is so great, I wish I was the Emperor. I want to be the Emperor. I am the Emperor. And so he's slowly going insane with this mindset that he is the one true Emperor. And over the course of this, my character is beginning to see him as direct opposition. I am getting these images put in my head where I can have it all. I can have whatever I want. I can have all the power in the world. And to my character, this becomes, if I get this power, I can save humanity. And he's getting in his head, if I get this power, I can become the Emperor. I am the Emperor, but I can become an even better Emperor. I can become the true Emperor. And so we're slowly devolving into this almost underhanded, backstabbing, like, oh yeah, I'm your friend, yeah, cool, I need to kill that motherfucker. And at the same time, everyone else on the crew is going crazy. Our tech priest, at some point had to split his consciousness. Now he has alpha and beta. And I can't remember which is which, but one of them wants to kill the other, which would essentially kill them both. Basically, I want to say it was Beta. Beta wanted to kill Alpha, but Alpha was the dominant psyche, so if he died, they'd both die. And eventually he has to fuse them together, and he's infusing all of these... He's infusing all of these other memories into himself. And eventually, we fight through and we take this somewhere in the medical bay. We have, like, it's a different medical bay. We take this cryo state, and the way he described it, and what was supposed to happen is this was supposed to be another player's character who never ended up playing, but it was supposed to be a person who may have actually fought with the Emperor at some point. I think he was supposed to be a cleric or priest or something like that. So he didn't. He ended up being nothing, and we just like, okay, he's dead. Kind of a unnecessary part to the story, but it's part of the story. Because we actually went through a lot of effort to keep this guy alive. Now, this also ties in because we find another space coffin, but this one is powered. And this is still all on this one ship, and we're just trudging through it, trying to keep us all alive and trying to take control of this thing without losing our entire crew. Which, I'll go into that tangent in a second, but we find this other space coffin. And for some reason, one of our guys thinks it's full of explosives. Turns out it's not. It turns out it actually has someone or something very important in it. At this time, I don't remember what it was anymore. So, yeah. And it sounds like it's another unimportant part of the story, but this one actually is very important. Because as we're going through this ship, we're fighting, and we come up to this massive encounter, and we encounter something known as a core ghost. I'm not really sure exactly what it is, and there's obviously someone who's going to correct me, but if anyone's plays Pokemon and knows Muna, the little pink thing, that's basically what it was described to us as. So basically think of a demonic version of that floating through the air. And we're getting this image, we're being told there's basically chaos bugs, this massive wall of chaos bugs, and our men are just mowing them down, just trying to stop these bugs from getting to us, because if they get to us, they'll destroy us. And all the while this is happening, they're basically creating this pile of chaos bugs, and the core ghost is shooting at us. And I have this bright idea, this brilliant idea. I take this Spartan shield off of my back, something that I got from the beginning, and I jam it into this wall of bugs to try and use as a shield, right as a core ghost blast comes through and destroys the shield. But not me. However, because this thing works in chaos, or works in the warp, is how it works, I am immediately transported inside of it. All the while, you can have it all is running through my head, but I'm transported inside of this thing. And I'm given control of it. And I use it. I'm like, oh, that's another core ghost. I'm going to go destroy that. And so I do. And this is driving me more and more insane. So I'm transported back to my own body. And the men just saw me make this very valiant, heroic effort. And so I make this big speech, and at this point I have been making as many egg puns as possible. And it's become sort of a joke within our group that if someone says eggs, we're all just like, eggs, 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 eggs. So that's the kind of character I ended up being. It is almost a comic relief, but everyone is comic relief in most games, to some degree or another. We ended up keep going through the combat. Sorry, I lost my place by that tangent. We keep going through the combat, and I make this big heroic speech, and I urge my men on, and we end up winning. It's this big victory, and it helps increase morale, which hasn't really been decreasing anyways. Basically, at this point, we have lost so many men that we are press ganging members of the crew from random parts of the ship. Just like, hey, you, here's a gun, get on the ship. And we're drafting the entire crew who has no combat experience whatsoever, just so we have soldiers on the field. Which, usually this would make morale go down immensely. However, our lawyer fellow, who was played by Scott, and this is where our group's Go Team Fuck Scott saying came. He was a stat whore, a complete min-maxer, who had basically made his character so powerful, had such a good command and fellowship, that we ended up this session with bonus bonus morale. Our crew was as happy as could be, even though we had lost at least half the crew. So after this fight, we are introduced to... can't remember his name again. Basically, he is a massive ancient tech priest who is unable to be killed. Like, it's not possible to kill him. Somehow he will come back. And I want to say it's Arbitrator, but I don't think that's right. So eventually the DM is just like, okay, I need to put something in your path. And basically what he does is he has the Arbitrator land right in front of us and just starts a conversation. And it's one of those situations that we all know this is going to go bad. This is going to go very bad. So the other players start to get a good idea together. And they start hashing this out. They're like, okay, so we can't kill this guy. We know we can't kill this guy. Nothing we could possibly do could. But what if we use him? What if we can pull off something so completely ridiculously blind luck that this guy works in our benefit and we don't have to fight him? And so we're sitting here, and I'm thinking, and Rogue Trader has a thing called fate points, which are basically you can get a reroll, or you can get a bonus, or if you burn one, you get something to happen, or if you burn one, you can stay alive, or you can burn it to pull off something awesome, which was a house rule. We play by rule of cool. So like, okay. So what ended up happening is the fighter guy was like, okay, I'm gonna attack him, and they're communicating this without the tech priest guy knowing. The bad tech priest. I'm just gonna, even though it's probably not his name, I'm gonna keep calling him the Arbitrator because it's simpler. So the tech priest and the warrior guy are having this conversation without the Arbitrator knowing. So the space coffin from before is controlled by our tech priest, and he commands it to dump whatever was in it. We don't know what it was, or I don't know what it is. We probably knew what it was at that point, but he guides it basically so that it is flying towards this guy, and right as it's about to hit him, it opens. The fighter pulls out his power sword, slashes this guy across the chest, and he rolls a crit. Yeah, he rolls a crit. The tech priest whips out one of his guns and blasts the guy a few times. Didn't crit, but he hit at least. They shove him into the coffin that has just come up behind him open, slam the thing shut, and tell it to fly to the end of the ship where the chaos ship is. And because he burnt the fate point and because he had the crit, the DM was like, okay, so you end up slashing this guy's capacitor or something. I look like a complete fool right now because I don't know the terms of anything. But basically, his core, and I think that's half of it. He had his core, and if destroyed, these cores will blow up like a nuke, very powerful nuke. So effectively, we have a nuke just flying to the end of the other ship. And it's funny, the reason this is funny is because the warrior guy looked at this ship and saw, hey, this thing is labeled explosives. It was not labeled explosives. Actually, I think it was labeled explosives. But it was clearly not explosives, and he failed his his role, and he was dead set and convinced that this was in fact explosives. In the end, it turned out to be explosives, but because of us. At this point, we are in a abandoned ship situation. We need to get off of this ship, but we want this ship, so we're not going to. So we need to get the other ship. And in between all of this happening, I had gone back to our ship. And I am dead set on, I need to take out the astropath. I need to take him out in some way, shape, or form. And it's been brought to my attention that he is more powerful because of his men, or his men aid his power. So I'm like, okay, well, I have my own guys. And I intimidate him and command him, like, you need to go get this other guy. I don't care how you fucking do it, just do it. All the while, the astropath's like, my guys are Armstrongs. His little astropath assistants are Armstrongs, these big hulked up guys. So I'm like, okay, my guy's smart enough, and he just bashes him over the head while he isn't looking with a giant ass piece of iron. And he doesn't go all howl the rock and just shrug off the damage. He's knocked the fuck out. So he's knocked out, and he brings him up to me, and I'm like, okay, so kill him. And he's just, wait, what? Yeah, I need you to kill him. And he's just, no, I can't. And I badger him down. I intimidate him, and eventually he does kill the guy. And I'm sitting, and he's, no, this is wrong. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. So I push the button, I close the airlock from the safe side, and then I open it from the not-so-safe side. And out goes my man, and out goes his man, and he knows his guy is gone, and the tech priest knows what I did immediately, because he's linked to the ship. Tech priest knows what I did immediately. So I get back onto the ship, and he doesn't say anything at first. He's got more pressing matters to deal with. I get back on the Tech Priest ship, which is the Space Hulk, and we eventually discern that we need to do something about the Chaos ship. We're gonna have an air run, and we're gonna destroy this thing. At the same time, the astropath finally snaps, goes completely insane, kills a bunch of men, and he is rushing to the Chaos ship to try and take control of it. And so I say, this can't happen. I grab 300 men and I go with him. And in my mind, I'm thinking, I know what's going on. It's you can have anything. You can have all the power. You can have it all. So I eventually get to the ship, and we have this big psyker battle. Kind of. It starts off with, I have these 300 men at my back, and I think we crashed a ship into the crystalline ship in that area. And I can't remember exactly what happens, but he gets slammed into this ship, and his body dies. But his spirit doesn't. His spirit is now inside the crystalline ship, the Chaos ship. And I'm sitting there, no, this can't happen. And I immediately know what's happened. He's already in the ship. I have to stop him immediately. And to this day, I call it the Lelouch. Basically, what happens, and I'll explain navigators a little bit. All navigators, or most navigators, have a third eye. both literal and metaphorical. They have a third eye that they can see into the warp with. Over years and years of mutation because of warp and inbreeding, navigators literally have a third eye. However, when you open this third eye, anyone who looks into it looks into the warp, which will kill them or make them go insane very quickly. So most navigators have a hood or have something to cover up their eye. Me, I have a hood. And so what I do is I turn around to my men, and the reason I call it Lelouch is because I command all of you to die, and I throw back my hood, and I use my gaze past the will save high enough, and basically commit a blood sacrifice to go into the realm that the astropath has gone into. At this point, I am the craziest person in the crew. I have seen the most shit, I have been through the weirdest shit. And my character is absolutely insane. And I'm going to pause this while the train goes by. I'll be right back. Alright, and I'm back. The joy of living right next to a train. Okay, so where was I? So I sacrificed effectively 300 men, which some people will cry out bullshit, and others will cry out, that's kind of hardcore. And I like the first people, as I said in the beginning. The rules, as I said in my first video, rules are nice and all, but if the rules get in the way of something badass that is borderline, fuck the rules. So I sacrifice these men, and I end up in this realm. And I'm chasing after this guy. He's this old, feeble, crippled man, running away from me, because if he escapes, he will get the power, or if he reaches it first, or whatever. And so I'm chasing after him. And the DM describes this epic scene where I am sprinting after him. I am chasing after him. And I am suddenly in this massive suit of armor. And I'm like, okay, I want to create a weapon. Because I'm like, I'll make a will save to create this weapon in my hand. And he's like, oh, you've always had the weapon. It's in your hand right now. And I look down, and I've got this massive sword. And I am in this massive suit of armor. And I think he was saying I was the Emperor. In my own head. That might be what he was getting at. But for whatever reason, I'm chasing down this astropath, and I want to kill him. So I eventually catch up to him. I make enough saves that I do catch up to him, and the DM says, okay, this will be the last save. Whoever wins, wins. And I'm kind of at a disadvantage because the astropath has a higher will save than me. So it's going to be whoever gets the most successes. So I make my attack, and he makes the counterattack, and we both roll 90. He rolls 92, I roll 93. So I end up losing. In the grand scheme of things, he had less failures than me because of his higher will save, but it's still one of those funny things to see the dice 92, 93, and I still lose. So at this point, my character is completely fallen to shit. He's kicked back into the real world. I have to spend a fate point. I have to burn a fate point just to get my ass off of this ship, which consequently didn't matter. But the Chaos ship flies out, it pulls out, explodes into this glory of chaos energy. And Emperor M becomes the true emperor. He basically ascends into a chaos god. And from that point, I could no longer show up for this game because I had just gotten a job. But basically what they did is my character was shuttled back to the ship. Basically a completely broken, physically, mentally, everything. And the tech priest, who had seen everything, because he can see through all of our comms, came in, and he had, throughout the game, he had become the leader of a death cult on the ship. So he has the death cult come flay my character alive. And that was the end of my navigator. And the end of my second game. So, what did I learn? I learned that Warhammer is a very messed up place where everyone goes insane or goes corrupt. I learned that even if someone says you can have it all, you have to earn it all. And to this day, we still have the True Emperor popping up in our games. That was one of the most influential campaigns, because it really brought us all together. It brought the core of us together. Because right now, it's basically me, Emperor, me, Matt, Dakota are the three main players of this group. Dakota was the tech priest, Matt was the astropath, Emperor M. He became the true emperor. Which kind of, when you think about it, or when I think about it, it brings our first two games full circle. Because our first game, he was the son of a god destined to rule the world in his mind. In our second game, he became a god. Which I find is funny. So, with that, if you guys haven't played Rogue Trader, I highly, highly suggest playing it or some other form of Warhammer 40k role-playing game. They're written fairly well, and they have an interesting transition. For instance, there is a way to play a character from Only War into Dark Heresy into Rogue Trader. I think there's even conversion rules for it. And I don't know if you can take it further, because the next one, I believe, is Dark Watch or something. Basically, you play Space Marines. I don't think you can bring a character from Rogue Trader into that, because Space Marines are Space Marines from near birth, if not birth itself. But still, there was actually a story of someone using Only War, a campaign of Only War, to create a backstory for his players to play in Dark Heresy, and it was very well done. Basically, what he did is he had, and I'm going to butcher this, but basically what he had was his soldiers or his players would create these units and throw them up against entirely insurmountable odds. And they slowly started winning victories, but they lost way more than they won, because in Only War you effectively play guardsmen, and guardsmen die a lot. Like a lot. Basically, they're fighting on this planet, and their men are slowly working and winning, and they eventually get to a point where they do just enough that they can pull out. They're explained what they did, they're explained why they did it, they're explained the benefits of what they did. And then their current characters, the surviving ones, are basically sequestered, taken away from the rest of the men. And they're led into a room with about 20 other people. And these 20 other people are the survivors of each, basically, wave. What was happening is they would fight, and after a certain amount of turns, after the end of a specific battle, those who had survived were put on the ship. And these were the characters that were going to be Inquisitors into the Dark Heresy game. And I thought that was very interesting, because you could take that and then take it into Rogue Trader. There's actually conversion rules, I believe, for it. So, with that, I will leave you. If you guys have any suggestions for me, please give them to me, because I need suggestions. If there's anything you want me to talk about, anything you want my opinion on, feel free to give it. I am the guy with 3 years of experience opinion. So I'm not an expert, but I like to think I have some idea. With that, have a good one. Game on, guys.